Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. Paraguay President Santiago Pena Palacio on his first state visit to India holds delegation-level talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to add a new momentum in bilateral relationship. Russia-Ukraine prepare for second round of talks in Turkey amidst massive aggression. Moscow dubs Ukrainian strikes terrorist act. Kiev alleges biggest drone attack by Russia so far. Nationalist historian Karol Nawrocki wins Poland's presidential election by narrow margin, gets 50.89% votes against Trzaskowski in poll battle. India's global outreach on Operation Sindoor continues. All party delegations engage with key figures in multiple nations, highlighting India's continued fight against terrorism. And in sports, Australia's all-rounder Glenn Maxwell announces retirement from one-day international cricket. Paraguay President Santiago Pena is on a three-day state visit to India. He met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the national capital, New Delhi, and held discussions at the Hyderabad House, New Delhi. Later, both the leaders held delegation-level talks, taking a new momentum in bilateral relationship. This is the first visit of President Pena to India and only the second visit by a president of Paraguay to India. During the bilateral meeting, Prime Minister Narendra Modi described the visit as historic, noting that it marked only the second time a president of Paraguay had visited India. He highlighted the significance of the visit, which included stops in both Delhi and Mumbai, as a strong reflection of Paraguay's commitment to strengthening mutual ties.
आपकी यात्रा बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक है। दूसरी बार पैराग्वे के किसी राष्ट्रपति की भारत यात्रा हो रही है। एक्सेलेंसी, मुझे खुशी है कि आपके साथ सीनियर मंत्री, अच्छा एक बड़ा ताकतवर डेलीगेशन आपके साथ आया है। आप केवल दिल्ली नहीं बल्कि मुंबई भी जा रहे हैं। इससे आपसी संबंधों को प्रगाढ़ करने की आपकी प्रतिबद्धता बिल्कुल स्पष्ट है। मेरा विश्वास है कि आपसी सहयोग से हम साझी समृद्धि का मार्ग प्रशस्त करेंगे। एक्सेलेंसी, हमारे पास आर्थिक सहयोग सहित डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी, क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स, ऊर्जा, कृषि, स्वास्थ्य, डिफेंस, रेलवे तथा स्पेस जैसे क्षेत्रों में सहयोग के नए अवसर हैं।
Paraguay President received a ceremonial welcome and a guard of honor on his arrival to India. India and Paraguay established diplomatic relations on September 13, 1961 and have since shared warm and cooperative ties. Over the years, both nations have expanded their collaboration in key sectors such as trade, agriculture, health, pharmaceuticals and information technology. Earlier, the visiting President Pena paid homage to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat in New Delhi. President Pena is accompanied by a high-level delegation comprising ministers, senior officials and business representatives. As part of the visit, he will also travel to Mumbai before concluding his trip on June the 4th. DD India's Akshay Dongre joins us for more on the story. President Pena, Akshay, is on his first visit to India, and as we told our viewers, it is in fact only the second ever visit by a president of Paraguay to India. How significant is this visit and what's on the agenda?
Well, it's quite significant as far as the visit is concerned, Tanvi, because as Prime Minister also has said that this is the second ever visit of a President of Paraguay to India. And in the last 11 years, the continuity that the Indian government has shown as far as strengthening relations among the Global South countries are concerned, this is a direct result of the fostering ties between India and the countries of the Global South, and especially when it comes to Latin America, the South American continent is while quite far away from India when it comes to distance, but the closeness is increasing day by day with the continuity in the policies that are boosting trade, cultural ties, people to people connect, as well as defense ties between the nations of the Global South, and India and Paraguay are also showing the exact same growth as far as the ties are concerned. We have seen the kind of delegation that has come with the President of Paraguay, that has leaders from business community, cultural community, a large delegation that is also traveling with the President of Paraguay to strengthen ties in various aspects of trade and other connects between and cooperation between the two countries. The visit is going to continue for 3 days, today, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, and on 4th June, after concluding the visit, the President of Paraguay will be returning back to his country. However, in these 3 days, there are engagements lined up for the President Pena, with today's engagements primarily focusing on government-to-government relations, and then we will see tomorrow there will be events where the President will be participating in Delhi, and then later Mumbai as well. And on 4th, the President of Paraguay will be leaving back to his country after the engagements that are slated for the 3-day visit of the President of Paraguay to enhance ties between the two countries.
Okay, thank you very much, Akshay Dumre, for all those updates. Global aviation leaders are in New Delhi for the 81st IATA, International Air Travel Association Annual General Meeting and World Air Transport Summit. Hosted by Indigo, the event marks India's growing influence in aviation, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi set to deliver the keynote address at the event.
The global aviation spotlight turns to India as the world's airline leaders gather in New Delhi for the 81st IATA Annual General Meeting and the World Air Transport Summit. Hosted by Indigo and held for the first time in India since 1983, this landmark event takes place from June 1st to 3rd, bringing together more than 1,700 participants, from CEOs and policymakers to media from around the world.
We have over 1,700 delegates from all across the world, includes airlines and many of the other players in the aviation ecosystem who are participating, delegates from over 100 countries. And IATA has also updated its reference to India. It is now the 3rd largest aviation market in the world.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the keynote address, underscoring the country's growing importance on the global aviation map. The World Air Transport Summit, following the AGM, will dive into the future of flight, addressing key issues like sustainability, innovation, and connectivity in an ever-changing world.
We're seeing the emergence of a stronger aviation sector in India. As I mentioned, on the back of emergence of stronger airlines within the country, the growth of connectivity, the growth of the network that Indians can connect to the rest of the world, to other parts of the country. All of that is significant, and we are also seeing significant increase in the airport infrastructure as well.
India's aviation industry is soaring. It supports nearly 370,000 direct jobs and contributes $5.6 billion to the economy. Add in tourism and indirect impact, and that number climbs to a staggering 7.7 million jobs and $53.6 billion, making up 1.5% of India's GDP.
As the global aviation industry charts its own course for the future, all eyes are on New Delhi. With a record partnership and high-level dialogue, India isn't just hosting the conversation, it's helping to lead it. From tradition to transformation, India welcomes the future of aviation here at the Bharat Mandapam. With camera person Anil Thakur, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for TD India from Delhi.
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is on a 3-day visit to France to strengthen economic ties and explore investment opportunities with global partners. Piyush Goyal held meetings with CEOs of YCAT and Total Energies, who showed strong interest in expanding investments in India. He expressed gratitude to France for its support in the fight against terrorism and emphasized strengthening bilateral ties. Goyal held productive bilateral talks on trade, market access and strategic partnerships, and is scheduled to meet executives from major firms like Renault, EDF, L'Oreal, highlighting India's commitment to deepening global economic engagement.
France is playing an important role in many of our technological collaborations, be it in the space sector, defense sector, precision engineering, artificial intelligence. We also have a very strong collaboration with France on insurance and financial services. The recent agreement to establish the Yuga Yugin Bharat Museum, the world's largest museum, when at Kartavya Path, is something we are doing in collaboration with the Louvre, the museum in Paris. So all in all, it's a very wide-ranging subject of engagement with France.
You're watching DD India News. Are still to come on the show. Balochistan Liberation Army claims complete control of Surup City, targets state installations in an armed operation. Opposition parties slam Bangladesh's Mohammad Yunus-led interim government for repeatedly inaugurating reform discussions without any tangible progress. And US-China trade truce risks falling apart over China's slow walking on rare earth exports. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Tanvi Taneja. The Baloch Liberation Army, BLA, claimed to have taken complete control of Surup City in the Balochistan province of Pakistan. The BLA has also announced that it has captured levees and police stations, major banks and other key government offices in the city. BLA's commanders also said that they have successfully pushed back Pakistani army and police forces after intense clashes. They also claimed responsibility for killing a station house officer during the operation and confiscating weapons from police personnel. The seizure comes at the time when Pakistani Army Chief Asim Munir was visiting the Balochistan province capital, Quetta. In Bangladesh, Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus will hold the next phase of talks with political parties on Monday afternoon. All political parties engaged in the ongoing reform discussions have been invited to attend the talks. Informing media about the talks, the Deputy Press Secretary to the Chief Advisor said more rounds of talks are expected to take place before and after Eid. The first round of discussions between political parties and the National Consensus Commission concluded on May 19th. Earlier on Sunday, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party leader Salahuddin Ahmad said that the interim government led by Dr. Yunus is simply showing bananas in the name of reforms while failing to take any concrete steps to ensure that elections are held in the country within December. While speaking at a discussion in Dhaka, Salahuddin criticized the government for repeatedly inaugurating phases of reforms without any tangible progress. He also slammed the chief advisor for not delivering on a previous assurance that elections would be held within December. And now on to news on India's continued efforts under Operation Sindoor. So in line with India's principled and resolute stance against terrorism, 7 all-party delegations are conveying to the world India's strong message of zero tolerance towards terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. An all-party delegation led by Member of Parliament B.J. Panda met with Mohammad Kwan, Chairman of the Committee of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and the National Community Abroad in the Algerian Parliament on Sunday. The delegation discussed the need for strong and determined measures against terrorism. The delegation appreciated Algeria's unwavering pledge for justice. Another all-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Ravi Shankar Prasad met with UK's Shadow Foreign Secretary Preeti Patel and her team to share India's firm resolve in combating cross-border terrorism. They also highlighted how Operation Sindoor exemplifies the new normal set by India in this ongoing effort. The delegation also interacted with representatives of Indian diaspora at the India House in London on Sunday. They reaffirmed India's united stance and unwavering commitment to combating terrorism in all its forms and underlined the readiness of India to continue to decisively punish any and all acts of terror. The high-level delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Sanjay Kumar Jha interacted with the 15-member National Defence College delegation from New Delhi visiting on a foreign country study tour to Malaysia. The delegation also interacted with S.P. Narayanaswamy, a veteran of the Indian National Army and a member of the Balak Sena of the Indian National Army. The delegation expressed deep gratitude for his contribution. The multi-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Supriya Sule concluded their visit to Ethiopia on Sunday evening. The delegation in Addis Ababa held rich, intense and fruitful interactions with Ethiopian dignitaries, members of media, academia, civil society, think tanks, as well as the Indian community in Ethiopia. During the meetings, the Indian delegation conveyed in one voice India's zero-tolerance policy towards cross-border terrorism and briefed about developments since the heinous terror attack in Pahalgam. The Ethiopian side emphasized its own zero-tolerance policy against terrorism and stressed that terrorism must be condemned. The delegation appreciated the solidarity shown by the Ethiopian leadership in the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack and thanked for the support. Another multi-party Indian delegation led by Dr. Shrikant Shinde interacted with members of the Indian community in Liberia. The delegation members conveyed the collective will of India to fight terrorism in all its forms and manifestations and the support received from the international community in this endeavour. They also appreciated the diaspora's role in strengthening India's friendship with Liberia. As part of India's global outreach on Operation Sindoor, the multi-party delegation will meet Brazil's top officials today. Led by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the group will start their meetings on Monday morning local time and continue till the evening. DD India's Shobhan Saxena gets us more details on the delegation's agenda in Brasilia today.
The Indian parliamentary delegation led by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, which arrived in Brasilia on Sunday, will have some very important engagements throughout the day on Monday. The delegation will meet some of the most high-profile diplomatic and political figures in Brazil. The Indian parliamentary delegation will call on Ambassador Celso Amorim, who is the chief advisor on foreign policy affairs to President Lula da Silva. The meeting with Ambassador Amorim, who has served as Brazil's foreign and defense minister under 2 presidents, will take place at Palácio de Planalto, which is the seat of the executive power in this country. Ambassador Amorim has been a long-term advisor and associate of President Lula and one of the most influential figures in this country on foreign policy matters. Another important engagement of the Indian delegation is a meeting with Ambassador Maria Laura de Rocha, who is the Secretary General of Foreign Affairs in the Foreign Ministry. This meeting will take place at Palácio de Itamaraty, which is the headquarters of Brazilian Foreign Ministry. The delegation, led by Dr. Tharoor, will also call on Senator Nelsinho Trade, who heads the India-Brazil Friendship Front, and Federal Representative Felipe Barros, who is the President of Committee on Foreign Affairs and National Defense. In the meeting with Brazilian leaders, the Indian delegation will brief them about the terror attack on unarmed civilians in Pahalgam on 22nd of April. During the day, the delegation will also meet members of the Indian community over lunch at the Indian Embassy in Brasilia. At the end of the day, before flying to Sao Paulo on their way to the US, the Indian delegation will pay floral tributes at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi here in Brasilia. This is Shobhan Saxena for DD India in Brasilia, Brazil.
All right, on to Poland now. Nationalist opposition candidate Karol Nawrocki won the second round of the country's presidential election with 50.89% of votes. Nawrocki, 42, a Eurosceptic historian and amateur boxer who ran a National Remembrance Institute, campaigned on a promise to ensure economic and social policies favor Poles over other nationalities, including refugees from neighboring Ukraine. His rival, Rafał Trzaskowski, the Liberal Warsaw mayor and an ally of the government led by Donald Tusk, got 49.11% votes. While Poland's parliament holds most power, the president can veto legislation, and the vote was being watched closely in Ukraine as well as Russia, the United States and across the European Union. In South America, Mexicans chose their judges in unprecedented elections that sharply divided opinion in a country plagued by rampant crime, corruption and impunity. According to the National Electoral Institute, turnout reached only around 13% of the 100 million eligible voters. With more than 880 positions to fill, many voters struggled to choose from the plethora of largely unknown candidates. The vote will elect 2,600 judges and magistrates, including all Supreme Court justices, and is part of a reform pushed by former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and his protege and successor Sheinbaum. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said that the election will root out corruption in a flawed judiciary and instead allow people to decide who should be a judge. In Boulder, Colorado, several individuals sustained injuries in what the FBI is investigating as targeted terror attacks. A man allegedly threw Molotov cocktail-like devices near pro-Israeli demonstrators. While police have a suspect in custody, the Boulder police chief refutes the FBI's terror claim, citing the investigation's early stage. A report.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation in the US is investigating a targeted terror attack where multiple people were set on fire Sunday afternoon near Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado. Multiple people were injured, one of them critically, when an attacker used an incendiary device on demonstrators who were marching to buoy awareness of hostages held by Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Witnesses said the suspect threw Molotov cocktails that burned some or all of the victims, who were part of a march for Israeli hostages.
It's very scary and it's a huge shock. And it's a big thing that, sadly we've experienced before, but it's really scary and it's really upsetting that it's happening in Boulder.
FBI Special Agent in charge of the Denver field office, Mark Michalik, said there were 6 victims aged between 67 and 88 years who were transported to hospitals. Michalik said a male suspect was taken into custody named Mohammed Soliman, who was aged 45. Soliman was hospitalized shortly after the attack.
We're early in the investigation, but some details have emerged. I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell, "Free Palestine," during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses.
FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency was aware of and fully investigating the targeted terror attack. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser said it appeared to be a hate crime given the group that was targeted. But Boulder Police Chief Redfern stressed it was too soon to speculate about a motive. The incident comes amid heightened tensions in the United States over Israel's conflict in Gaza, which has spurred both an increase in anti-Semitic hate crime. Bureau Report, TD India.
Since assuming office on January 20th, 2025, US President Donald Trump has used his tariff policy as a disruptive weapon, significantly altering US-China trade dynamics. His bold and unpredictable actions have shaken markets, strained ties, and disrupted global supply chains. Now, US-China trade truce risks falling apart over China's slow walking on rare earth exports. DD India's Harshita Oberoi reports.
The tariff drama with China began on February 1st when President Trump announced a fresh 10% tariff on Chinese goods. The administration cited China's failure to curb fentanyl exports, calling the move a national security measure. Just 3 days later, on February 4th, Beijing retaliated with tariffs of up to 15% on American energy and manufacturing products. Chinese officials accused Washington of weaponizing trade to deflect from domestic problems. By February 6th, the trade war intensified. The US warned of more penalties unless China took meaningful action. On March 3rd, the US hiked tariffs again, this time to 20%. China struck back quickly, targeting American agriculture. Then on March 12th, the Trump administration expanded its reach, imposing a 25% global tariff on steel and aluminium, citing threats to national security. By April 2nd, Washington hit all imports with a 10% blanket tariff. 2 days later, on April 4th, Beijing escalated, raising tariffs on American goods to 34% and restricting exports of rare earth minerals essential to tech and defense. The standoff deepened on April 8th when U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports surged to 84%. Washington accused China of economic manipulation. Beijing called the U.S. a bully on the world stage. Then came a pause. On May 12th, both sides agreed to a 90-day tariff truce. The U.S. scaled back its duties to 30%. China lowered its tariffs to 10%. Global markets saw a brief sigh of relief. But the bonhomie didn't last. On May 18th, China struck again, this time with a nearly 75% duty on U.S. polymer imports, breaking the fragile calm. And on June 1st, Trump accused Beijing of breaching the truce by halting rare earth exports. China, on 2nd of June, denied the charges and warned of further consequences. The world's two biggest economies are now once again putting global supply chains and diplomatic ties to the test. Harshita Oberoi's report, DD India.
You're watching DD India News. Are still to come on the show. An expert take on how productive the second round of peace talks in Istanbul are likely to be, considering the ongoing escalations.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Thank you for staying with us on DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. In a dramatic turn, Ukraine and Russia are sitting down for a second round of direct peace talks in Istanbul. But hopes for progress are clouded by a major escalation on the battlefield. Over the weekend, both sides unleashed some of the most intense drone and missile strikes of the war, with Ukraine targeting Russian bombers and Russia responding with hundreds of aerial attacks. Take a look at our next report.
The historic city of Istanbul, where empires once brokered peace and war, will again be a witness to an effort to cease the hostilities between the two neighbors as Russia and Ukraine head for a second round of negotiations to end the ongoing conflict. Ukrainian Defense Minister leads Kyiv's delegation, while Russian side is headed by Kremlin advisor Vladimir Medinsky. The first round of talks just 2 weeks ago produced a large prisoner exchange, but there was no progress towards ending the hostilities. Now both the delegations arrived with draft proposals, hoping to narrow the gap. Ukraine's roadmap insists on full sovereignty, no restrictions on its armed forces, and reparations for the destructions. Now, crucially, it offers no recognition of Russian control over occupied Ukrainian land. And while diplomats negotiate, the situation continues to deteriorate. Just hours before talks were to resume, Ukraine's Domestic Intelligence Service, the SBU, carried out its most daring drone strike yet, deep into Russia's military heartland. President Zelensky praised the operation and termed it as absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant operation was conducted on the enemy's territory, against military targets only, against equipment that was used to deliver strikes at Ukraine. Russia has had very tangible losses.
Russian response was swift and deadly. Russia launched a record 472 drones overnight, along with missile strikes across 5 regions. Moscow now claims fresh territorial gains in Ukraine's Sumy region. US President Donald Trump is now pressing for peace, threatening to withdraw US support if no progress is made. International observers from the US, Britain, France, and Germany are expected to attend the Istanbul talks, though their level of involvement remains unclear. No joint statement is expected tonight, but if even a framework for further talk emerges, it could mark a small step towards the ultimate goal of declaring cessation of the hostilities. Bureau Report, DD India.
And joining me now to discuss the potential of peace in the 3-year-old Russia-Ukraine conflict is Atul Aneja, foreign affairs expert. Welcome, sir. So why have both Russia and Ukraine stepped up attacks on each other's territories immediately prior to the second round of peace talks in Istanbul?
You see, what happens is that before any talks take place among adversaries, you got to show to you have strong domestic audiences to appeal to. And, you want to appear to go for negotiations from a position of strength. And I think the Ukrainians, being relatively a weaker power than Russia, were more sort of driven to change, or at least do a spectacle which would change perceptions, which will change optics. I think that's what really happened. And I think they did it quite brilliantly yesterday by attacking deep inside Russian territory with drones and whatever reports are coming in. It also had a telling effect on the Russian bombers and other equipment which were used on strikes in Ukraine. So I can understand the Ukrainian motivation, and then the retaliation comes from the Russian side. But to be honest, at the end of the day, despite what has happened, it really hasn't changed the situation on the battlefront. And over there, you can see the Russians have made tangible gains on the ground, and they are closer towards Sumy, as was in your report a while ago. So I don't think that's really changing the dynamics on the ground, though it has been somewhat, on optics point of view, the Russian image has taken a hit, but it's not so much as to alter the real play or the balance of forces on the ground itself.
Okay. Now, what terms is Ukraine likely to set for a peace deal? It's been 3 years of the war. Is there going to be any, Ukraine going on the back foot now? Do you think that is a possibility?
Well, it eventually, I think what Trump had told about Ukraine, that you don't have the cards, I think that's something which remains, despite the spectacular attack which took place yesterday. So, frankly, I don't see. Ukraine has to minimize its losses. It can't be status quo. It can't be its maximalist demands. So I think that we are not still there at a compromise where Donetsk area or Donbass region would be essentially with the Russians. The Russians would also want the Black Sea coastline, a part of that, Mariupol and places somewhere closer to that, under their firm control as a part of the peace deal. And they would also want that there are no missiles placed in Ukraine which can threaten Russia in the future. And they also want the denazification campaign, denazification of the territory, which means the Azov battalions have to be dismantled. So now both sides are sort of going ahead with their maximalist claims. We are yet to have the real negotiations on these issues. What we had earlier was on the release of prisoners on humanitarian side. But I think what is important now is the good thing is that talks are still going on after what has happened in the last 2 days, that they have not broken off. That's a good sign. But the second thing is, I think it's going to take a while before you actually do the talking on territory and other demands. And honestly, I think there's some more ground battles ahead before we come to a situation where either side is willing to compromise. So it's a very interesting dynamic that you have talks and conflict together. It's not ceasefire and talks. So you're going to have both on two planes going simultaneously in this theater.
So President Trump was very vocal about his criticism of Vladimir Putin for the very same reason that the attacks are continuing, talks are also continuing. So do you see a situation where President Trump is going to lose his patience and going to back out from these peace talks?
Well, I think frankly, they are not directly involved right now. I think that particular phase has started. And I do think that there is an understanding between President Putin and President Trump that, look, we were not going to directly interfere right now on the ground. So you guys do what you want to do. And once you have done what you have to do, then we will be back into the equation. I think that's a pause which the Americans have taken right now. But the danger in this is that from an American perspective, they would want to wrap up this military dynamic as quickly as possible so that they can get back into the negotiating fray. And the Russians are, frankly, it's not that the Ukrainians will roll over as swiftly as Trump would want. So there's going to be a time when Trump is going to feel uncomfortable, I think, about, and that's where your point comes in. Will he get impatient? And if he does get impatient, what are his options? Will that mean, again, a much bigger support, military support coming from the Americans to the Ukrainians as was before? I doubt that would happen. But there would be pressure on Trump if this doesn't wrap up quickly to consider options again, which may not necessarily suit the Russians. But having said that, I think there are a lot of things happening behind the scenes, and especially that lengthy conversation between President Trump and President Putin there was much more to it than what has been reported in the media.
Okay, finally, the most significant outcome of the first round of talks in Istanbul were the prisoner and civilian swap, 1,000 in number from each side. Do you see a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia as a likely outcome of the peace talks this time, or not yet?
Not yet. We're not still reached a stage, and I think this is going to be protracted negotiations. Again, with optics, with our attacks, which took place yesterday, and the Russian retaliation. I think that's going to be the play. The dual plane, as we spoke earlier, is going to take place. We are not there at a decisive moment of a deal as of now. And that's where we have to watch out what's happening on the battlefield as intently as to get clues on which side would blink first.
Okay, do you think Russia has achieved its objectives in this conflict so far, or is there more damage yet to be done?
Not yet. I don't think the minimum Russian demands have been met as yet, and that would be really the Donbass area that has to come with ethnic Russian population. Those have to be there, and the Black Sea access. I think these are going to be. And third demand, it can't be demilitarization of Ukraine, but you can't have deployment of missiles or Ukraine's membership in the NATO at any time. That would be a complete red line. So I think those demands are yet to be met, and we'll see how it goes. But
still a lot.
Negotiations and conflict together.
Yes, well, still a lot to look forward to in these peace talks. At least they are happening. Thank you very much, Atul Aneja, for joining us on DD India News.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's take a look now at other stories making news around the world. Ho Chi Minh City faces site clearance challenges, delaying key projects and public investment. New rules let local authorities set compensation prices, and the city aims to cut public investment processing time by 30% to speed development. South Korean broadcaster SBS will turn election night vote counting into an Olympic-level spectacle with quirky CGI animations, including toilet plunging candidates and Squid Game parodies as voters head to the polls on June the 3rd. Flash floods in China's Yunnan province have affected nearly 4,800 people, damaged homes and destroyed buildings. Repairs on roads and power lines are underway, with authorities warning of more rain ahead. And very quickly, let's take a look at other stories making news in India. In a major breakthrough, 16 Nakshals, including 2 key People's Liberation Guerrilla Army members, surrendered in Chhattisgarh. Among them, 2 carried 8 lakh rupees bounties and 6 had 25 lakh rupees rewards. Officials credit the surrender to the government's policy and the Niyad Nelenar scheme for reintegration. The Indian Air Force launched a humanitarian assistance and disaster relief mission using a Mi-17 helicopter from Air Force Station Assam on Monday. The operation was carried out in response to a request from the state administrations of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, aiming to provide urgent relief and support in the affected areas. The Supreme Court of India refused to hear a petition by the All Bodoland Territorial Council Minority Students Union challenging Assam's policy of pushing back suspected Bangladeshi infiltrators. It directed the petitioner to approach the Guwahati High Court. The Government of India has approved a scheme to boost domestic passenger car manufacturing, focusing on electric vehicles. Aligned with 2070 net zero goal, it aims to promote sustainable mobility, economic growth and position India as a global automotive hub. And on to some weather updates now. The southwest monsoon's dramatic onset in northeast India has left a trail of destruction, claiming multiple lives and impacting over thousands of people across the 5 states. Over the past 3 days, relentless rains have unleashed flash floods and landslides in Assam, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Tripura, collapsing buildings, washing away roads and displacing thousands. The India Meteorological Department has issued red alerts across the region, warning of further downpours that could intensify the crisis. Rescue efforts are being hindered by continuous rain and damaged infrastructure. As per local administration in Sikkim, more than 100 stranded tourists evacuated safely from Lachung.
The tourists who were stranded in Lachung, they have been rescued. Approximately the tourist count is 1600. They were stranded since 30 because due to everybody knows that in 29th evening there was a very huge flow of water. It was due to flash flood or maybe the cloud burst. So there were multiple landslides across Lachung to Fidang. So around 8 to 10 landslides were there, and we were trying to clear it all. So last night evening only it got cleared, and today morning we started evacuation.
Meanwhile, the India Meteorological Department has forecast continued weather disturbances, including thunderstorms and rainfall across Delhi and the National Capital Region till Tuesday. Delhi woke up on Monday to partly cloudy skies and minimum temperature of 27.2 degrees Celsius, just slightly above the seasonal average. This continues a pattern of abnormally mild conditions in May. The capital has so far been spared the intense heat waves typically associated with this time of the year. And DD India's Subina Roy joins us from Dibrugarh, Assam. Subina's heavy rain is lashing the northeastern states. Red alert has been issued for parts of Assam and Meghalaya. Tell us about the administration's response to the rising water levels and the continued rainfall.
Right, Tanvi, as you can see, the water behind me is gushing with full force. You can see the Brahmaputra out here. The water levels have reached above danger level at many points. At Brahmaputra here in Dibrugarh, the water level is under control as of the recent flood bulletin report. As of your question on rescue operations, Tanvi, all the different organizations, different agencies of the government, be it the state government or the district authorities, the Indian Air Force, the Indian Army, Assam Rifles, are all working hand in hand in evacuating people from the low-lying areas. For example, yesterday in Tinsukia district, the Indian Air Force and the district administration carried out an evacuation process, where 15 people stranded at the Bamji River in Arunachal were rescued, were airlifted through helicopter, and they were brought back to Tinsukia because these people belong from the Tinsukia district. And this incident occurred at the Assam-Arunachal border. Apart from that, around 500 people have been rescued through boats. Tanvi, the NDRF and SDRF are doing it 24/7 into duty to rescue these people from inundated areas. If we talk about the medical teams, 20 medical teams have been deployed across the Assam state, where emergency health facilities are being provided. Now, there are many river islands, Tanvi, which are surrounded by water. So if there is any patient or anyone who needs help, these people are brought back to the mainland areas, and they are provided medical facilities. They are also provided food items, and in case of inundation, they are brought back to the other side of the river, Tanvi. So it's a 24/7 operation. Yesterday we could see, and even today in Manipur, Assam Rifles and the Indian Army has been carrying out evacuation in the Manipur Imphal district as well. So these are the operations which are being carried out. Yesterday, the Union Home Minister had called all the chief ministers of Assam and has assured full assistance from the center. And today, the CM of Assam is also visiting the Lakhimpur, where, majorly the effect has been seen, where there is embankment breach, and it is being repaired, and the CM has gone out to see there how the rescue operations are being carried out, how the relief camps are working. So this is a 24/7 approach where each and every agency is working on a war-footing basis, Tanvi.
Okay, thank you very much, Subina Roy, for all those updates covering the weather of the entire Northeast for us. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sporting action. Australian all-rounder Glenn Maxwell announced his retirement from ODI cricket on Monday. After making his debut against Afghanistan in 2012, Maxwell made 149 ODI appearances for Australia, scoring 3,990 runs at an average of 33.81 and a strike rate of 126.7. Maxwell also claimed 77 wickets in the 50-over format with his handy off-spin and also made 91 catches. Maxwell played crucial roles in Australia's 2015 and 2023 ODI World Cup title wins. In 2023, he produced one of the most iconic knocks in the tournament history when he scored an unbeaten 201 in a match-winning chase against Afghanistan, battling severe cramps. And now let's move on to updates from the ongoing French Open Grand Slam tournament. Defending men's champion Carlos Alcaraz overcame America's Ben Shelton 7-6, 6-3, 4-6, 6-4 for his 100th tour-level win on clay to reach the French Open quarterfinals for a fourth successive year on Sunday. Italian Lorenzo Musetti saw off 10th seed Dane Holger Rune in 4 sets to advance to quarters on Monday morning in Paris. Up next for Musetti is Francis Tiafoe. Defending women's champion Iga Swiatek survived a first set scare to battle past Elena Rybakina 1-6, 6-3, 7-5. Ukrainian 13 seed Elena Svitolina beat last year's runner-up and 4th seed Jasmine Paolini 4-6, 7-6, 6-1. And world number 1 Arna Sabalenka advanced past American 16 seed Amanda Anisimova 7-5, 6-3 to book a spot in the quarters. The top seed will face Olympic champion Chen Qinwen of China next. And India's Rohan Bopanna and his partner Adam Pavlicek of Czech bowed out of the French Open after a 6-2, 7-6 loss in the third round. Henry Patton of Great Britain and Harry Heliövaara of Finland dominated from the start, breaking Pavlicek's serve in the third game and Bopanna's in the fifth to seal the opening set with ease. The second set saw both pairs holding their serves throughout, leading to a tiebreak which the Indo-Czech duo lost. India's number 1 doubles player Yuki Bhamri and Robert Galloway suffered a 6-4, 6-4 loss to Christian Harrison and Evan King of the United States. Harrison and King broke Bhamri's serve in the third game and then held their games to win the opener. In the second set, both pairs held their serve for the first 8 games, but the American duo broke Indian players' serve in the 9th game to seal the match. The loss has ended India's campaign at the Roland Garros. And on to IPL now. Shreyas Iyer led from the front with an unbeaten 87 of 41 balls as Punjab Kings booked their place in the final of IPL 2025 against Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Punjab in fact chased down 204 with an over to spare in the second qualifier against Mumbai. Josh Inglis laid the foundation with a whirlwind 21 ball 38, smashing 20 off an over from Jasprit Bumrah. Meanwhile, Nehal Vadhera also hit 48 during his 84-run stand with Shreyas. Earlier, Tilak Verma and Suryakumar Yadav played crucial knocks of 44 apiece as Mumbai posted 203 for 6 in 20 overs. Naman Dheer's 37 of 18 balls towards the end played a huge role in helping Mumbai go past the 200-run mark. This also marks the first time Mumbai Indians have not been able to defend a score of 200 plus. And in chess, world champion D. Gukesh secured a statement victory in the 6th round of Norway chess, defeating former world champion Magnus Carlson in classical time control for the first time in his career. The Indian teenager was playing with white pieces. He held firm under pressure and capitalized on a rare blunder by the Norwegian grandmaster in the end game, converting it into a memorable win. Carlson appeared to have the upper hand for much of the game, pressing from a superior position, but Gukesh defended with composure before turning the game on its head with a precise counter-attack as Carlson faltered under the tournament's increment time control designed to resemble rapid play. The score between Gukesh and Carlson in the tournament is now 1-1. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can also download our DD India mobile app for news and updates from India and the world. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.